The Idaho Traveler is a presentation of the Western Heritage Foundation, made possible by our generous sponsors and viewers like you. In the late 1970s, Idaho Heritage Magazine set out to study the dozens of small towns that make up Idaho's mostly rural environment, in a quest to discover what makes Idaho, Idaho. Join us now as we revisit those same small towns more than 4 decades later to see what's changed and what remains the same on The Idaho Traveler. Driving south from Pocatello into the Caribou National Forest, Highway 30 cuts east through the mountains to the Bear Lake Scenic Byway. About 10 miles in sits the town of Lava Hot Springs, snuggled into a narrow canyon bisected by the Portneuf River. Home to about 500 people, with another 1,500 or so living in the surrounding countryside, this charming small town has been making its mark on Idaho's tourist industry for, well, since long before there was a tourist industry. Former Mayor and City Councilman Marshall BURGIN has lived here since 1946.
When we first moved here, we had the tourist season. It wasn't what we got now. It was basically the miners from Wyoming, and they'd come in on a train up there, stay a week or two, and then they'd go back.
Those waters have made this spot on the map a gathering place ever since they were discovered by the ancient Shoshone-Bannock tribes, who, for obvious reasons, loved to winter here.
It is natural mineral water. We're fortunate that it comes up at the temperature it does, and it stays constant throughout the year. So that temperature probably only varies within 1 to 2 degrees throughout the winter. We don't have to add a lot of chemical to it at all. It doesn't have the sulfur smell that a lot of hot springs have, and so we're just really fortunate the way it all naturally works.
Early white trappers and traders were just as eager to soothe aching bones and muscles in this natural hot wonder. Bob Dempsey was the first to actually settle here, and others naturally followed. The federal government purchased the land from the tribes in the late 1800s, and not long after, the first town site was laid out by John Hall. In 1902, 178 acres along the north side of the Portneuf River was ceded to the state of Idaho, which established a foundation to manage the land.
We manage the hot springs here. We have 4 parks that we rent and 2 other parks, and then we also have the Olympic swimming complex.
Since the Idaho Traveler's first visit here in the late 1970s, the town has seen a lot of changes, but few have had more impact than those created by a team of citizens who led a revitalization effort in the 1980s.
Initially, it was just local people that wanted to improve our town. Well, Main Street is the town. And back then, our Main Street was in pretty poor shape. And so we decided, let's focus on infrastructure and let's focus on trying to make it appealing. It meant literally ripping up all of the sidewalks, all of the roadway, everything through Main Street. I have to tell you that it was tough on the businesses. One particular individual was complaining to me a little bit about the loss of revenue. And one of our local cafe owners came up to me and she said, "Don't let that bother you, because you see, if you want to have a rainbow, you have to endure the storm." And that turned everything for me. From initiation to shovel turning, it took us 5 years. But I think once we turned dirt, it took about 6 months. Shortly thereafter, the town was back to full speed plus.
Across the river, the Hot Springs Foundation was making changes of their own.
Oh wow, in the last 40 years they've done a lot actually. In the early 80s, this hot pool back here was extended. The customer service area has been remodeled at least 3 times, dressing rooms redone. We added the furthest cooler hot pool in 2009. And then over at our Olympic swimming complex, we enclosed the smaller 25-yard pool, and so that pool is now open year-round.
All along the way, these efforts have been nurtured and promoted by a very active Chamber of Commerce.
The Chamber has been around for about 40 years. It originally was established to promote our local businesses, our members, and try to involve the community as much as possible. The issues we see is just trying to blend the growth the businesses want and the small town feeling the residents want. There's got to be a happy balance there somehow. Right now in the summer it's packed to the brim here, but we'd love to see kind of the same amount of activity in the off season, keep these businesses thriving and happy.
There's so much to do here in such a small town. I think part of the draw for people is they're able to come here, spend the day, get a lot of activity in, and it's all within walking distance.
I don't think we ever have a slow week here. Even in the winter when it's supposedly dead, this last year, business just keeps picking up and picking up.
2017 was a record year. We had 420,000 between the two locations.
I'd like to think Lava will always be a little town. The little town that we live in and love. But I hope the town can maintain its little mountain rural atmosphere.
If we grow too much, we're going to get the big businesses. And we have all these mom and pop shops and hotels, and it's just not going to have the same feel.
Tourism itself is our lifeblood. We understand that, and we try to make sure that tourism is alive and well.
We do have a lot of tourists, but at the end of the day, it's our community that makes Lava what it is and makes people want to come back. I mean, there are days when we get off work and we all go tubing down the river. You know, so it's very much a sense of family here.
Almost every small town has at least one place where you can get a big Idaho breakfast. One such spot in Lava Hot Springs is the CHUCKWAGON restaurant.
All right, you guys, are you all ready to order?
I think we are.
Okay, what can I get you?
So what's a good big breakfast?
Ooh, so the number 2 is pretty big. Comes with all these hash browns and sausage and ham and eggs and cheese. It's beautiful.
All right.
And our omelets are all pretty big, so you could just pick your favorite one. All right, number 2.
Oh my gosh.
And who has the scone again? All right, and I'll be right back with that pancake. All righty, how is everything looking?
Great. Are all your breakfasts this big?
Yep. Yep, and if you stay for dinner, or if you come back for dinner, they're just that big too.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an Idaho breakfast right there, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We want our customers satisfied.
Watch for more adventures as we continue to explore Idaho's small towns, right here on Idaho Public Television. And pick up a copy of Alan Minskoff's quintessential book from Caxton Press, on which our series is based. We'll see you next time on The Idaho Traveler. The Idaho Traveler is a presentation of the Western Heritage Foundation, made possible by our generous sponsors and viewers like you. Thank you.